Welcome again. I'm very happy that most of you stayed with us for the second talk, and I'm very happy to see those who just joined us. We are about to start, and this time we're going to talk about public art in relations to the temporary projects, such as biennales, festivals, art fairs, because these institutional structures push the public art industry beyond its borders. I'm going to give a mic to our beautiful and amazing moderator, Sanaz Askari.
Is this working? Yes. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our panel titled Temporary Structures, Permanent Shifts, How Time-Based Art Events such as biennials, art fairs, and festivals reshape the public realm and public discourse. Sound is good? Yeah? Okay, wonderful. Before we begin, I'd like to extend a warm thank you to Inloco Initiative and especially to Anna. We've been in regular communication for organizing today's program, and to our esteemed speakers who have taken time out of their busy schedule to be with us today. I'd like to briefly introduce our speakers today. We have Laila Binbrek, Director of National Pavilion UAE at Venice Biennale since 2013. She has played a central role in shaping the UAE's presence at one of the world's most influential cultural platforms, commissioning artists and curators, supporting the development of their theme, and contributing to the pavilion's long-term cultural vision. Laila brings essential insight into how national narrative are constructed within a highly competitive, time-based global context such as Venice Biennale. Welcome, Laila. Then we have Dunja Gottweis, the new Director of Art Dubai Fair and formerly the Global Head of Gallery Relations of Art Basel, where she's worked across Basel's multiple international editions. Her career spans over the last 14 years, if I'm correct, yeah? In the global art fair ecosystem, developing gallery networks, shaping fair strategies across US, Europe, Asia, and now the Middle East. She brings a deeply international perspective to her new role at Art Dubai Fair. Welcome to UAE, Dunja. We also have Moath Alofi, Associate Director of Creative Production at the Diriyah Biennial Foundation in Saudi Arabia, and a multidisciplinary artist whose practice explores landscape, memory, and the layered histories embedded in place. Through photography, research, and fieldwork, his work prompts us to think about how time, disappearance, and persistence shape our understanding of a place. Welcome, Moath.
Thank you. Just a small little correction related to, unfortunately, we have 3-4 platforms recently in Saudi with similar names, somehow, sometimes. So I have nothing to do with the Diriyah Biennale Foundation. It is more with the Diriyah Foundation under Diriyah Gate Development Authority, which part of it is the Diriyah Gate Company. So it's there, but I'm proud and happy to be part of them anyway. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Dear Diriyah Foundation. Okay, and an artist. We also, I think, we have Alfredo Cramerotti, which I'm not sure if we were able to make a connection with, who's supposed to join us from Qatar, no? Regardless, I'll give a brief introduction of Dr. Alfredo Cramerotti, in case he's able to join us later. Director of the Media Majlis Museum at Northwestern University in Qatar, a curator and a scholar whose work examines the intersection of contemporary art, media, and digital culture. He has co-curated multiple national and collateral pavilions at Venice Biennale and has led curatorial projects including New Riyadh, Art Dubai's digital section, as well as the Lumen Prize. Hope that he can join us. And with that said, it's only right I introduce myself as well. My name is Sanaz Askari, and I'm an independent curator and a cultural advisor with over 14 years of experience in the UAE and internationally. I founded a space called The Mind, which was a project space in Dubai in 2013 as a platform for regional emerging artists. I have also produced multiple public art commissioning for Dubai Media Office, UAE government, along with wider cultural programming. This year, I've also curated multiple exhibitions, a collaboration in Al Sirkal Avenue, as well as a recent show at the Third Line. It is my pleasure to moderate today's talk. Okay, so we'll start with questions for... Actually, I'd like to give a brief about the topic that we're discussing today. When we look at public art events, many of which are planned many years in advance, yet unfold over remarkably condensed durations, we begin to see a cultural landscape defined by intensities. Whether it is the concentrated temporality of an art fair, the episodic cadence of a festival, a cyclical momentum of a biennial, these formats appear briefly and then recede, leaving behind traces often more consequential than their physical timelines suggest. Despite their built-in impermanence, such events have significantly shaped how art operates within the urban fabric of cities. They introduce new ideas, activate public places, and bring diverse communities into dialogue with each other. They create spaces for critical reflection and collaborative experimentation where artists, curators, test new modes of engagement in real time. And through these events that are fleeting, the ripple effect that they generate culturally and socially often extend far beyond their visible duration. They broaden public imagination, influence cultural discourse, and contribute to a longer-term trajectories within the region's artistic landscape. Today's discussion invites our speakers to reflect on how these temporary formats leave marks that endure and how together they reshape the public realm and cultural conversations. Okay, so with that said, I would like to start with Dunja. Newbies first. Dunja, with your extensive experience from one of the world's leading global art fairs, Art Basel, you're now stepping into the UAE's art ecosystem. Coming from Art Basel, which operates across multiple international editions, to the Art Dubai fair, a single location, locally rooted fair, what are the immediate differences you observe between these two models of temporary cultural structures? And could you also speak to, actually tell us about Art Dubai's fair year-round engagement with audiences, with entities such as, just to think of a few, Al Sirkal Avenue, the UAE Pavilion in Venice, the Sharjah Biennial, and how these collaborations help build a deeper community-focused cultural ecosystem?
Yeah, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's more than one question and a lot to talk about. No, but it's super interesting. I mean, the first thing that I experienced when I came to Dubai is that Art Dubai is more than just an art fair. There's really engagement with the community all year round in a way that I haven't seen it at any of the Art Basel fairs that I've been working on. Which is also supported by the infrastructure of Dubai and by the people that live here. It's this extremely creative place. There is a big community of supporters that has grown over the past 20 years. But one of the things that Art Dubai does, which I think is great, they have a membership program for collectors where they organize travel, exhibition, curators take us through exhibitions, whether that's Jamil or that's a gallery in Al Sirkal. We just did a trip to Uzbekistan, to the Bukhara Biennale. We go to artist studios. We just did, which was really exciting. To talk about how we work with other institutions. We had a gallery that exhibits at Art Dubai. One of the artists was shown at the Sharjah Museum. We hosted a dinner with the artist here in Dubai, and then the members that were participating in the dinner, we all went to the opening afterwards the next day. You know, like, and I think these are extremely wonderful ways to collaborate, and the galleries, the artists, they're so thankful. And I think these are the things that make Art Dubai special. We also have like an education program, two actually. So one together with ARM, where we create workshops that are run by local artists in schools. I think so far we reached 50,000 children, to give them, you know, like, to allow them to experience art. We also have now it has developed a little bit, but now it's more like a trainee program where we have, it's called Campus Art Dubai. And we take trainees every year that work with us on the fair. We do mentorship. We try to find job opportunities for them after. I think last year, every one of them found a job in the art world in Dubai. And we also, the two of those work very closely with us now. So there are things that where we like grab into the community that like a global art fair enterprise like Art Dubai, like Basel, doesn't even have the time, or I don't think doesn't think about. So yeah.
Wonderful. And just going back to, some of these cultural clubs, like, or art, collectors club, they are, I guess you could only register by paying a fee, right?
That's true.
That's right. Okay, so they cater to a group of people.
That's true.
Aside from that, Dunja, how does Art Dubai, aside from their internship program and educational program, how does Art Dubai engage the local community, such as, you know, cultural workers, art practitioners, curators, young emerging artists that are not necessarily connected to a art collectors club or a institution? They're perhaps, you know, just like majority of us have moved here. They're not Emirati. They're new to the scene and to the sort of cultural sphere. How can they join to be sort of involved with Art Dubai program?
Also a very good question. Well, I think, you know, I only arrived here, I think 7 months ago, so I'm still learning and I'm still connecting with people. But one thing that we want to do is to grow this, you know, like to, so far, how to connect with artists, collectors, maybe future collectors, you name it. I think we can do more, and we will do more. But I think that Art Salon, it's true, it's for members. We also want to tier this to make it more accessible moving forward. But also like working with curators, with independent practitioners, you know, like I think like with those members, we can visit those spaces and create a relation. And I think like just being here, being out and about and like meeting people, you know, like so many ideas come out of it. So I don't even think we are there yet.
Wonderful. I love how open you are to this. And are there any particular shifts, new direction, or changes you're hoping to introduce this year or the following year?
I would say we evolve. I think, well, first of all, you know, like I'm so grateful to come to an art fair that has this legacy and that people really love. But there are three things that are, I would say, that I would like to address. So I visited Art Dubai, I have to say, for the first time in April. So, but you, of course, you look around and you think about like, you know, like what works, what doesn't work. And for me, there are three things that I wanted to do. One thing is that our emerging sector, Bababa, really becomes a place for emerging artists, maybe mid-career artists if they haven't shown in the region yet, or for whatever reasons. And we introduced a support program where we share the risk with the galleries. So you pay 50% of your booth fee up front and the rest based on sales. And we also don't leave the galleries on their own. So one thing that we want to do, we want to introduce VMP ambassadors in Dubai that take care of micro-communities and then can really do their matchmaking, like that they know what the galleries bring, they know the collectors, they know what they want, they know what institutions are interested in, and we can support that. So that's one focus. And the other one is that I felt that the modern sector last year was a little bit like scattered out, and I think it's so important to understand the past, and I think for so many people, like to come here to the region, we have so many international visitors at the fair as well. It's so interesting to understand the past. It's also going to be the theme of the 20th anniversary fair, which is future, past, present, where you look into the future through the lens of the past and you can address the urgencies of the present. And so we have, it was really important for me to have a dedicated section, curated section, where we have at least 10, if not more, historical presentations. And then we create a new sector, which is called Bawaba Extended, which will span the entire campus, which is like big installations, maybe food-based art, hospitality-based art, where you can experience it without like just only, you go to an art fair and then you go to a booth and then you have to ask the price. So to make it more accessible and experience-based, I think these are the three things that I want to change.
I've personally been raised around Art Dubai. That was one of, in my early 20s, first references of where we would go. And
no, like everybody has this story. Everybody remembers their first Art Dubai story. It's so nice.
yeah, it's an important art and culture pillar for us Dubai kids, and we've seen it become. We've grown together. So it's wonderful to see where it is today. Going back to involving the community, the Bawaba is a very interesting initiative, definitely with younger initiatives. Are there sections that include, is Gay Theatre, Beit Mamzar, for example, grassroots, homegrown initiatives like Beit Mamzar, or that are actually based in Sharjah, or even my own project, The Mind, was a very sort of grassroots, emerging artist/project space. Is there a section in the fair already existing or coming to be, which is involving the grassroots homegrown initiatives?
Well, I would say not how you're framing it now. I think one thing that differentiates Art Dubai from other fairs, especially ones that come into the region now, that it's homegrown and that it's grassroots. Do we have a section for non-commercial galleries? No.
Okay. There was a section, actually. It was called Residencies. Oh. Yeah, it was so wonderful. You would do a 1 month, yeah, that's 2015, right? I participated in that. Yeah, it was really wonderful because you would, it was in the lower ground floor, and what they did is they flew in one artist per initiative that did a 1 month long residency in D3, and then they produced the work for the fair. I hope you bring it back. Okay, well, thank you, Dunja. My next questions, I'll come back to you again. My next questions were for Alfredo about the digital section at Art Dubai, but we still don't have him, do we? Okay, no problem. Then on that note, I would like to move to Laila with international biennials. Laila, when presenting a pavilion and shaping a narrative for an international platform like Venice, how does the pavilion's finite duration influence how the team constructs a national narrative on such a competitive global stage?
With a lot of tears. Is this on? Is this work? Yeah. With a lot of tears. It's hard because the process itself starts a year and a half before they even get nominated. So we have a whole committee structure, and that's a 3-part structure. So there are proposals that are submitted and reviewed, and they get questioned until a final team or individual or artist, or depending if it's art or architecture, is selected. And then they come to us with my small team, and we help them focus this grand idea that they have to actually happen in the 7 months that they actually usually have to do it, which is the research, the publication, the graphic design, the build, the construction, everything, which is a really tight timeline. And I would say over the years, I think this coming year will be my 12th exhibition there. I think we've got a system input, but it requires a lot of hard conversations with the team. And also, you know, the selection process also with the committee and the conversations that they have when they meet either the team or the individual is to ask them like questions of, you know, what's your methodology for research? How do you build your timelines? If you have, these are the dates, because the Biennale has non-negotiable dates, you know, part of the process of nomination is to ask them, okay, well, if this is when the Biennale is opening, give us your estimated timeline of how you're going to accomplish this amazing idea that you're proposing. So all of these things kind of factor into it. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your...
And that goes through like I'm very interested in the process. So let's say curators or artists suggest a theme or a concept, and it goes through a board of there's a board, I'm assuming.
There's a selection committee,
and
yes.
how's that connected to the national representation of that year?
So the selection committee itself, let's talk about that first. Our selection committee is comprised of some individuals who are, let's say, long-term members who know the story of the pavilion from the first time it participated in 2009 until now. They also usually have positions that are respected amongst the community, and they're usually quite higher up positions, let's say in government or representation in that kind of level. We always have the previous curator on the committee because they've been through the trauma that we've put them through. So they know the process of, this is my wonderful idea, and then the reality of how we break them down and make them really look at it in a way that, okay, it's a great idea. How are you going to do it in the pavilion? And then we usually invite members from the community, depending if it's an art biennale committee or architecture, who are more subject matter experts to also give their opinion. So it's kind of a top and a bottom up kind of thing. My role is to guide the conversation, maybe prod a little bit, but it's really the committee that makes that decision. For architecture, we have an open call. So we do an international open call for proposals. They can be from here, anywhere, but it has to be a story that's rooted in the UAE. And reflective of what's happening here. And for art, at the moment, you know, and all of these things happen in conversation with the committee, you know, in terms of how do we see the pavilion, because we have a permanent space instead of just one-off exhibitions internationally, which it was the first 3 years. But once we got our permanent space, it was an opportunity to think, okay, how do we build this story over time? And yeah, you can just click through some of these past pavilions. So it's more about how do we build this story incrementally over time, and how do we, you know, in small incremental ways change or shift people's notions about, you know, outside what's happening here, but also internally, like how do we help people's voices be heard? How do we shine light on those stories that aren't being told or aren't being seen, not just by the international community, but also here as well.
It's definitely a competitive stage to be on.
Yes.
And you guys have done so well.
Well, you know, we've been there for a while, so
Yeah.
yeah, we've been really blessed so far.
Can you tell us, I mean, just like Art Dubai, UAE National Pavilion is another very important art pillar of UAE. And can you tell us a little bit about the background, what year you started, and about, I remember that Mohammed Qasim.
So the first pavilion, if you go back, was actually back. Yeah, this is the first pavilion. It was in 2009. It's with Lamia Gargash. I don't know if anybody, I'm sure a lot of people were here then. It was a very interesting time to be in the UAE. You know, museum projects had all just been announced. You know, the gallery scene was kind of really becoming all hot and bothered. And, you know, Sharjah Art Foundation also, Sheikh Ahour had just moved back in 2005, so even that was kind of building up. And there was a lot of, and also what is now Art Dubai was Gulf Art Fair for 2 years before it became Art Dubai. And so all of these things, and then you also had the auction houses. So there was a lot of focus and attention happening. I mean, there was the Dubai Film Festival back in those days. So there was a lot of attention that was happening and being, you know, focused on this area. And, you know, especially with the announcement of the museum projects in Saadiyat, okay, you're going to bring in all of these museums, some international, some that they're going to do homegrown. How do you as a young country maybe get taken seriously? Because up until that point, everyone just thought our roads were paved with gold and we're all about big, you know, sail-like buildings and, you know, Burj Al Arab and all that kind of stuff. So that we're more than that. And how do you get taken seriously in the art communities? You go to the biggest event in the world, which is the Venice Biennale. So the UAE participated in the first 3, 2009, 2011. This is 2013 with Mohammed Qadem.
This is the year I started the mine.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
This was very inspirational for me.
It was, I think, inspirational. I mean, just being part of the UAE participating in Venice was huge. I was with the Third Line Gallery in those days. And in 2009, when the Pavilion opened, I think anyone who was anyone in the art scene across the UAE was in Venice. We literally, the UAE descended on Venice. There were 2 big parties, 2 pavilions. We won't go into that politics. But anyway, so at the end of 2013, I think, you know, the powers that be decided that, okay, this is a project that is actually, you know, worthwhile. And they signed a long-term agreement with La Biennale Foundation to have a permanent space, which meant we were now committed to doing not just art, but also architecture. That's right. And I joined at the end of 2013. So 2014, which was an architecture biennale, was the first exhibition that I did in our permanent space. It was also the time where the architecture biennale itself, up until that point, was a shorter duration than the art biennale. So the art biennale usually would open in April and end in November. Up until 2014, the architecture would be September to November. It was shorter. But Rem Koolhaas was the curator for the biennale that year, and he really insisted that it be open for longer. And of course, you know, longer means more tickets, which means more people and better for the, you know, Biennale Foundation. So they thought that was a great idea too.
And if I'm not mistaken, 2013 was the year that Expo 2020 was announced, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, I remember.
Too many things are announced. I can't remember all of them.
It was a big year for the UAE art scene. A lot was happening, including the mine.
all kinds of things were happening. So from 2014 onwards, we have been showing up regularly every year in the same space, doing art and architecture. And the one thing that you can say about consistently showing up is that people start paying it, you know, slowly it seeps into that larger consciousness. And now, you know, almost 12 exhibitions later, people come back to see what is the UAE doing. And they have their opinions, sometimes good, sometimes bad, it's fine. But they come to see what is, you know, what is happening. And it just, you know, then you can have more nuanced conversations with people rather than the surface conversations.
And it's around the corner for those that don't know.
Yeah, so we just closed the Architecture Pavilion this past weekend, and the Art Biennale will open beginning of May. Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys do quite well by bringing a huge group of people from UAE. Like, people just do show up. And I was thinking about this a little bit. It's you've got the local community here with Art Dubai Fair, and then you look at international influx of people. Versus the UAE Pavilion also really works on bringing the UAE local community, vice versa, to
I mean,
Venice.
definitely, we're now at a situation where we don't have enough tickets for everyone who wants to come to the Biennale, which is maybe a good place to be. But we also run an internship program, and from the beginning. And to be honest, I think that's one of our biggest legacies, because you know, we could, while the pavilion is open for those 7 months, have just hired Italians to open and close the pavilion and clean it and, you know, tell whatever script that you give them for the exhibition. But again, we saw it as an opportunity of how do you build knowledge capital here in the UAE? How do we benefit our communities here? Because everything is growing, everything is changing. You know, I know that this here now is very different than it was even 10 years ago, 12 years ago, the opportunities that exist. So we send young Emiratis and long-term nationals to Venice to be docents and ambassadors. They stay for a month, and they're caretakers of the pavilion once it's open. Those individuals come back to the UAE and go into the ecosystem of the UAE itself. You know, opening up their own architectural firms, curatorial labs, they become artists, they represent, you know, our curator this year for architecture did our internship in 2014. It inspired her to go do her master's. She did it, she came back. She opened up her own, you know, architectural lab with her friends, but it was also a professor, applied to the open call, and she won it, you know? So like, this is, when you see that too, you know, it's not only influencing outside because they're the best ambassadors, they also come here and become part of that larger ecosystem.
Wonderful. Thank you, Laila. It's so interesting to see on both perspectives how there's such a long-term planning, and it's a very time-bound process, and it's only lasts, well, I think of the biennial for the opening week mostly. Of course, there is.
Yeah, it does stay open more than just that week.
That's right. But like for the art fair, for example, it's only 1 week long.
Yeah.
So going back to that topic, I'd like to bring Moath in, the topic of time and temporality. Moath, much of your work deals with traces, disappearance, and the shifting layers of land over time. You document archaeological sites while also engaging in the fast-moving world of contemporary art, where works appear, intensify, and then they vanish. How do you hold on to your sort of conceptual narrative within these sort of contrasting temporalities?
First of all, thank you for having me. Thanks to Inloco for including me. I'm their artist now, which is maybe a minor announcement to actually mention. And I'm really honored to be part of this conversation with yourself and the team. So thank you for that. And once I got actually these answers from even like maybe, I think 2 days ago, and it did brought a lot to my attention. It actually brought a lot of thinking toward it. Maybe one of them, the major important thought that I got in my mind is where we actually grow up visiting Jeddah, and Jeddah art scene was booming, I know the past 10 years, but there are things that started maybe since the 70s where Pharisees did a lot of sculptures and etc. And that time where I remember one of the, not temporary, one of the permanent structures, I forgot the name of the artist actually who did the installation of the cars in that cube in the middle of the roundabout in Jeddah. Maybe I should have brought the photo for it, but I remember going there, having a lunch, having a dinner with the family, and it's a very important, they are very important memories in my life, actually. Not just that, but also visiting the rest of the sculptures, that some of them now, very known and very famous, of like Henry Moore and etc. We have like very important artists there. That was permanent and still permanent, and it brought to my attention actually how important that is for such a creating like your memories, the society's memories, what we actually built around them. That was something actually from the question that got my attention. Now, living in this fast rhythm of like a lot of events, lots of public art installation, I have seen it, I've lived around it, which got a lot of pros and cons to it, but still, it does somehow bring the societies together. It brings the opportunities for the young generation to create together, to celebrate, and to talk, and to challenge their own new social problems, in a sense. So this is how I see it. Yes, there is lots to it when it comes to sustainability, when it comes to environmental impact, especially that I came from a background that I graduated as environmental management and sustainable development. That's my degree, actually. And when you see some of these pillars of sustainability being challenged in the art world, especially when it comes to public art, temporary public art, and installation and events, it brings a lot of questions, but there is always lots of solutions to it. So, yeah.
Wonderful, Moath. Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about, I don't know if I pronounced it right, People of Pangaea?
Yes.
That's a body of work in 2018 where you work with ancient land formations shaped over millennia. How does this tension between deep time and the accelerated timeline of biennials and festivals influence your artistic process, in one way to say? Or does it shift what you hope your work or communicates or preserves to slow it down?
Even the permanent is sort of temporary. Let's get that right, in a sense, to be honest. Like through my explorations or bringing things to the table or new findings or new explorations. For example, what you see in the picture behind you, that is super permanent in a sense. This is an engraving in Mount al-Hnakiya. I call it I Am One. It's now in the permanent collection of Ithra in Aramco. But this is an ancient petroglyph that found 2013 actually and photographed it. It is permanent, it's in there, but when you bring it to the public, the audiences, the exhibitions, it will exist for a very temporary time frame. And then it sort of goes back to the storages and etc. But at the end, it does bring the dialogue, it does bring the new facts on the findings, and especially people of Pangaea, if we maybe change to some of the photos, they are structures that are found in the desert. You can see one of them here. Even the house owner next to it doesn't really know what he was actually going by or living by. In Saudi Arabia in general, we do really have ancient remarks, traces from civilization. And I was honored enough to actually chase them and creating the series which is called People of Pangaea. Pangaea, because I was also celebrating the first continent that we have emerged out of. And the work itself now, after becoming more and more exposed to the media, exposed to the scientists, exposed to some universities, while we're speaking now, in the past 2 weeks only, we got the University of Sydney working with our team, Earth team, in some of these trips just to keep excavating and finding more about these ancient structures, which is proven now by academic peer review that some of them are older than Stonehenge. In Britain, and it goes back to 7,000 years old. So I'm happy to see these findings and coming to the surface and coming to the people and coming to the public. And yes, I know it's very sometimes introducing what is happening in the art world in a sense, especially recently when you see the events in Saudi, the exhibitions. I'm talking about Saudi Arabia especially because I'm based there, and the fast pace of some of these exhibitions. But at the end, happy to host them in a temporary places. Yeah, I hope that answers the questions.
That's wonderful, thank you. I actually had a question for you and Alfredo together, but we'll skip that. I'll go back to Laila and Dunja one more time, if you don't mind. Is there a collaboration, or I know that the collectors from the art salon do go to the UAE National Pavilion, but is there other collaborations that the UAE National Pavilion and Art Dubai does throughout the year? And my second question is, are there generally other collaborations you do with other biennials, like Sharjah Biennial, or yourself with Art Dubai with Sharjah Biennial? Is there a synergy between sort of all the art entities? Like, the reason why I'm asking is, for those of you that don't know, we have Art Basel coming to Qatar in February, and then we have Art Abu Dhabi and Freeze joining in November, and then we have, of course, our beloved Art Dubai, which are 3 regional fairs. So a lot is happening in the region, and sometimes I just think to myself, well, do they talk to each other to maybe to maybe plan things like the way Freeze and Art Basel in Paris happens back to back? You just go to Freeze, and then you take a train and you go to Paris. And then I think to myself, do the art communities, like, or the art entities, have like a centralized platform, or are they synced or synergized some way? So just anyone in terms of organization that comes to your mind.
I mean, speaking about Art Dubai, we have collaborations that are formal, you know, like with Jamil, where we do things, we present artworks together at the fair, also with Art Sakal, you know, like, and we only want this to grow, also for the coming year. Do art fairs talk to each other? Well, since I have worked for Art Basel, my relationship with Art Basel is still very good. So, like, we talk to each other. Does that mean that we can always align, you know, like, or like also about dates? I think there's so many reasons. There's so many factors that inform when a fair takes place. And I think also the things still have to grow. Same with Freeze. I hope there will be, you know, because I think it's important that we talk to each other. But I think it's very different whether you have a collaboration with Art Jamil or with another art fair that is also in the region.
In terms of collaborations, I mean, the National Pavilion is a national pavilion, so a lot of the work that we do on the ground is only through the collaborations that we do with other entities, whether it's universities, an art fair, other institutions and foundations that exist. You know, Art Dubai is always on our list. We're always talking with the team on whether, you know, we can, I mean, again, it depends on the alignment of all parties to make things work. You know, so, and when it does, it's great. We've done talks, we've done workshops, you know, we talk to all of the different entities, and wherever there's an opportunity to do it, we do.
Yeah, thank you. And also there's obviously so much happening in Saudi. I can't even keep up.
We are not keeping up. No. We can't, in a sense, but I'm happy to see what is happening, actually, yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about, from the foundation perspective?
Well, I thought that question was coming in a sense, but there is a lot of changes. Maybe I'm not like really the right person to actually detail that, but let me tell you, for example, one example, what I actually see and support and supervise and initiate through some of the festival and the foundations, or some of the programs that the foundation, the Diriyah Foundation, is actually participating in. For example, we are running Teen Festival, celebrating traditional architectural gathering.
Sorry, what's the festival?
Teen, mud festival.
Yeah.
It was more of a niche festival gathering, traditional architectural gathering we initiated like 3 years ago in the World Heritage Site at Tarif. And now we are making it bigger a little bit. We're including more of like for the families, for the kids, for different types of audiences. But from that point, we create smaller initiatives, like, for example, last year was the Mud Art Symposium, where we opened a Turaif garden, which is called the Tawali now, for artists, designers, architects, to actually come and create small prototypes on what they think of as public art, where this might go later on in the narrative and under the interpretation of Diriyah Foundation and the historical Diriyah and the areas of it, or the history of it. This year, we do have the Ethel Art Symposium, which focuses majorly on the Ethel wood, the tamacrest, as a material that can be taken further. And we invite lots of designers, architects from local and international to actually come to Turaif and participate, showcase their solutions and especially traditional architectural solutions, innovation. We don't want something that is only romantic or like something nostalgic. We want real solutions. We want something that can be echoing later on. So this is one thing that is happening now. Among other things that is happening in Saudi, mashallah. Yeah.
It's a lot going on, and that's wonderful. I've been to Saudi quite a number of times, and I can't keep up myself. I think that sort of brings me to the final questions that I had in mind, which is now shorter a little bit because we don't have one of the speakers, but I'd like to leave some time for any questions that the audience might have. And is there anything else you guys would like to add? No, we're good? Thank you. Questions? Yes, please.
Everyone.
Is this on? Yeah. Thank you, Sanaz, for a beautiful panel. My question is for Dunja. So one of the big questions in the commercial art world at the moment is this wealth transfer from older collectors to millennials and Gen Z. And I appreciate there's not a one-size-fits-all answer to this, but I wonder if you had any advice to fellow commercial entities like galleries or even independent players like consultants or advisor on how to engage these younger audiences that we need to become the collectors and patrons of the future?
It's a very good question. I think if there would be an answer to it, I think many people would be very happy. But I think it's a lot of things. I was talking to a gallery, and I think it's not always or just a good thing. I think there is a generational shift that is not just age, it's also what people want. And I think we see a change in, like, there's less collectors that collect in deep, but more like, I buy what's available. I also don't play these games where I'm like, oh, if I buy that, you know, I only get that when I also buy the other thing, or if I donate one thing. I think people are way more like, I like this, if I don't get it, I buy something else, and it's not just art. So I was talking to a gallerist who said that, you know, in the past, it was with 50 collectors, I could survive. Now I need 500. But my gallery doesn't have the, you know, I don't have the staff, you know, like I'm not big enough. So I think, what can you do? I think you have to be very open. I think we as an art fair, you know, like I think also a lot of like, what can I do? What can I do as a director? What can I do as an art fair? And I think we have to get more in this process of matchmaking. I think this is why Dubai is such an incredible space. You know, like we have like 100 galleries max, 20 of them are digital, so that's already like a very different, maybe there will be more overlap, but at the moment it's a different collector. And then we have like all these people that are moving here from Dubai to Dubai, and the community that has been growing over the past 20 years. So the ratio between galleries, artists, and collectors is incredible for an art fair. But I also realized that like galleries, especially from the West, you know, like that come to Art Dubai and they sit and at their booth and they're writing on their computer and they're writing invoices, whatever. And then they're like, why did I not sell anything? Because like, well, because like you have to engage, you know, like here it's different. You have to look up, you have to be open, you know, like, and you, so I think there has to be a mind shift, also like how you communicate with people. And make it more accessible and also more transparent. Yeah, but yeah.
Well done, Sunny and speakers. My question is regarding the role of the private sector with regards to supporting the various biennales and art fairs. Sponsorship clearly plays a big part in that. So how do you guys go about navigating what can be controversial at times?
What do you mean controversial? Well, I'll speak for the National Pavilion. We receive a grant from the Salama bint Hamdan and Nahyan Foundation and the Ministry of Culture. At the moment, which is unfortunate to me, I don't have the remit to accept other funds, but I would love to. So, you know, I think it's necessary eventually, and it also kind of ties into maybe what was in the previous talk. There is definitely a role for the private sector to get involved, and you can see it in small ways, like Aldar had a bigger presence at Abu Dhabi Art this year. It'd be really great if other, like Imad or, you know, Al Futtaim, obviously with their art museum, but like, you know, and other kind of support systems that should be out there, big and small. Not necessarily to support the National Pavilion, but even just to support the artists to continue, or the architects to continue with their ideas. So by the time they land on our lap, they've already had opportunities to experiment, to dream, and to create, right? So also those kind of mechanisms are really, really important.
Shall I? Well, I don't think that any outfit in the world can survive without support. You know, like, and if you don't live in a country where there's support from the government, then you have to go to the private sector. And it really goes both ways. You know, like we get so much from our sponsors. They support artists, our communities. I mean, ARM sponsors the VIP tent, you know, like they bring collectors. And I think I see it actually more as an opportunity to work together and to create amazing things that otherwise wouldn't be possible. Do you have to think carefully about like who you work with? Yes, very much so. But I think in general, it is, I think we gain more as an art fair than we give.
Can I just add one other thing? Another thing that private sector can do more, maybe here, is the art fair is a moment in time, right? What is the art fair? It's to encourage people to buy and add to their collections. That doesn't stop when the art fair ends. So as institutions or organizations, I would encourage all of the private organizations here to start also collecting.
Very true.
You know, and to start becoming leaders in these kind of fields, to value work, not just for the outside, but even for their employees, for everyone else to really value whether it is a painting on a wall or an installation or a public artwork. These things happen year-round. They don't, you know, the Biennale or an art fair or something specific is one moment, but these actions are needed throughout the year. So I would say start up private collections and put artwork in your offices instead of, you know, reprints from IKEA, as lovely as they are. You know, there are many ways that you can engage. You can have an artist in residence who's in the lobby of your building, for example. There's so many ways that you can do that.
Alexei, you had a question? Oh, in a row. Okay, we have a couple. Okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah, hi. So, since sustainability has been such a big topic of discussion, but sustainability is also like the most thrown around word everywhere. And I just think that in terms of art and everywhere, what tends to happen is sustainability is thrown around as this physical definition. But rarely do we think about it in the emotional and the humanitarian aspect of it, which is like we were talking about temporary structures, permanent shifts, right? And when you do have a temporary biennale or you have a temporary exhibition, what are the ramifications on societal level that take place, and how do we sustain that? Because I am of the opinion that a biennale is just like, it's everywhere now. Everybody wants to do one, and it's every 2 years. Like, as a journalist who's working in the art industry, I have reached a point, and I'm just 24, wherein I can't keep count of how many are happening. And so is it really sustainable to do it that often since everybody's doing it?
Well, I'm going to say that we're doing the mother of all biennales. So yes, no, I'm kidding. I'm going to say you raise a really important question. It's a question we talk about all the time, because the effort, the word sustainability, I agree. It's everywhere. I don't think everyone understands it. I don't think we have enough conversations about the practicalities of how do you be more sustainable. Especially, let's say, exhibition making here in a gallery, or let's say in an Art Jamil or a 421, when you live in a country where everything has to be imported anyway, right? So how do you stay sustainable in that kind of way? For us, depending, again, whether it's an art or we try as much as possible to be aware of the carbon footprint, let's say, but if you're going to be in an art biennale and the artist lives here and you need the work to be there, you kind of have no choice to do that. But you try to find other ways with your contractor and other kind of things. It's a hard question. I don't really have an answer for you. And yes, there are a lot of biennales. Let's see the test of time, which ones still are around in a couple of years.
But also, as far as UAE Pavilion goes, it's a permanent structure.
I mean, we have a permanent space, but every year, the internal, depending on the exhibition, it looks completely different.
Of course.
Things are built, because it's a heritage building, so we cannot drill into the floor, ceiling, walls. We have to be very careful about how we hang things. So you need to build structures, sometimes just for lighting or for other elements of the exhibition.
And some of the artworks are actually moved around to other institutions and reshown. So the previous one was Syed
Abdullah Saad.
Yeah. That show was taken to 421.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
It went to 421 before it went back to the artist studio.
So it's not that the artwork is not reshown or positioned in a collection or an institution.
It is, but when we talk about sustainability, we're talking more about materiality of things,
around
right?
the exhibition.
And how are we more responsible in how we use these materials? Maybe.
No, it's like what I kind of...
Or you mean sustainable in terms of how many biennales we have?
Not just that, I would just say, like, let's say, because art is expression, right? It's kind of a reflection of society, right? Are we, as the art community who is pushing out these many biennales, are we really sustaining the dialogue and the conversation that we aim to do at the end of the day? Because I think we live in the age of like commodifying every single thing, right? So we can have 100 biennales in the world and like the month of November and October, but what's the point if 2 years down the lane, those discussions are not being carried forward? There is no change that can actually be measured in the sense that, oh, okay, this was there 2 years ago, and now the talking points have moved on to this, right? And I feel like a lot of it also has to do with like just the art community being just very, again, my opinion, very snobby in the sense that, you know, we tend to be holed up in our own circles, and, you know, I'm kind of speechless, but anyways.
Well, I think your question has so many layers. You know, I think in terms of like, there are too many things, you know, like where do I go? I think we live in a world where we have to, and I know it's not easy for me neither, but I cannot be everywhere and we have to be good with that. One thing. The other thing, sustainability of like a temporary structure like an art fair. Is an art fair sustainable in that sense? Absolutely not, will never be. But I think, you know, like as a regional art fair, I think that's probably the most sustainable way because, and especially with Dubai and the UAE and the region where you don't have to get on a plane across the continent to come there. Yeah, there was one other thing I wanted to say, sustainability. I also think that, especially when it comes to, I think the market will also tell there. Because I think that we are at a point where galleries don't make money anymore with each art fair, and there's a point where the emotional reasons are not enough anymore to do all of the art fairs. So I think we're seeing a point where fairs that have been extremely international, like Miami Beach, will become more regional, and some fairs, like I think Taipei, maybe won't exist anymore. In terms of sustainability of like the outcome, I think I've seen so many examples of artists, and I only speak about art fairs now, but there's so many examples of artists that have been shown and supported also by the private sector. For example, BMW had the prize, like the BMW prize, and the artists are, like they shot through the roof afterwards. It really was a way to start careers and kick the careers off, like Lawrence Abdurrahman here in Art Dubai, so. It's a very nuanced question, but I think there is possibility for sustainability.
If I may add, there is something in my head on that, especially coming from a sustainable background on environmental management, etc. But I think from what I've seen in some of the festivals, exhibitions, art fairs, and what I have seen, even the booming of these things in Saudi Arabia sometimes, I would say, in short, sometimes we might have to go unsustainable ways, in a sense, to actually keep our intellectuality, creation, sustainable for the longer term. And at the end, we will see something, I'm sure we will see something that's fruitful and much more worth some of these sacrifices. So,
Alexei?
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing up this topic. And actually, it is important, that idea of something long-lasting, something cohesive, especially if we kind of go back to our topic of the conversation in relation to public realm. And here's where I wanted to also address the question, actually, to both Laila and Dunja, because Moath have answered, I guess, through your practice, how you engage with the public space, and your work is really much related to it. But back to the ideas of, I guess the contexts of biennials and art fairs are naturally kind of concealed within specific space, and it's difficult to think about public realm if you are in a building. Now, Sanaz did mention the residency program that Art Dubai used to have several years back. I would actually bring something that was even before that beautiful project that was called Art Park. Funny enough, that project was taking place in the parking lot of Madinat Jumeirah, right? Because naturally, many art fairs decide to do sculpture parks, something in the public space in an open area. However, in Dubai, all the public space is a private space, as we know. So the space that the fair had remaining was the parking lot, which was the art park with large installations and sculptures. So, talking a lot. My question is, what are the other initiatives, other kind of programs that you have in mind, perhaps, not something that is realized yet, something in conversations, and similarly for Laila as well. I know that the National Pavilion, of course, is taking place in a specific indoor space, but what are the thought processes and initiatives to take these artworks back in the public realm, perhaps in the UAE? I'm sure there's some work that was going on there already, so thank you.
So should I start? Well, first of all, I think that I think with Bawaba Extended, the sector I mentioned, it's not really public space, but I think at night, it's open to the public. So I think it's a first start. I have seen in my career before, my professional career also, it's not so easy always to do something outside of the fair context for many reasons. Then galleries don't really see the revenue coming in, that they don't want to spend money on it. So I think you have to think very carefully. Do we want to extend our education and conversation programming? Yes, absolutely. And we have always been working also with the government. There is a public art strategy, and we are working on how to grow that, which you will hear about that soon.
So in terms of the National Pavilion, we do wherever, when we're in Venice, we are kind of restricted to our space. We can't really go any further outside the door, unfortunately, even though we've asked. So we're confined to that kind of area. But what we do try every year, whether it's art or architecture, and if it makes sense, is to find, this is where the collaborations part, a collaborative moment with an institution locally to bring, if not the whole exhibition, or a version of that exhibition back. So, for example, Abdullah Saadi in 2024 came back to 421. 2022, Mohammed Ahmed Ibrahim went to Marai Art Center. This year, Azza's pressure cooker, there was a version of it at Dubai Design Week. So, you know, every year we try to do these kind of things, as well as, if not the physicality of the work, then we try to do a lot of talks to share the content of what we've done in Venice, because I know not everyone can go there.
Do you have time for another one or two questions?
Yeah, I just have a quick question for Moath, actually. Something that you mentioned earlier about teen, I think is...
Yes, teen.
Yeah. And it also touches on what Alexi was talking about earlier in terms of the example of art park, public spaces versus, you know, private spaces. Can you elaborate a bit more on what you're doing in terms of, you know, using these like natural materials, like, you know, to build structures that can be used and reused and, you know, and repurposed when it comes to, you know, the art scene in Saudi Arabia, especially?
Well, I think, thank you for the question. One of the maybe noble causes or messages or things or acts, in a sense, that I can personally see is to actually empower some of the designers, architects, and artists to actually test and to create at least prototypes or small-scale structures that is from purely sustainable materials for bigger futuristic projects later on, which we have, mashallah, lots of it coming. So one of the opportunities that we got is to actually open that space, Al-Tawali' Historical Park next to Al-Turaif Historical World Historical Site, is to actually open that space and empower these designers and architects and artists to use specifically this theme of this year is to use al-ethel, tamacrest wood, to actually create something out of. So maybe we get 1 or 5 artworks. We're actually aiming to have 9 creatives this year in a duration of 20 days. We'll enable them to actually create on-site or even at their studios and then to bring it to the site to showcase with the public, for the public, and for their own sake in the future with different entities, for example. I know we have a public art team in Diriyah. They are working on these things for the rest of the mega projects that we are getting. So I think such a thing will really have a good impact for the artist and etc. to showcase something, to challenge themselves, and maybe later on when we get something feasible, something nice and something good and sustainable, maybe we can later on take it further with these big projects. We talk roundabout, we talk hotels, we talk about playgrounds and parks actually, and hopefully that will be fruitful, inshallah. Yeah, and please, all welcome to visit. It will be in January, inshallah, 27th, yeah.
I don't know how to use this. Okay, it's working. So I just wanted to add on what Dunja was saying. My name is Moza Luta, and this is my colleague Suzy Qadoura. We're currently managing the Dubai Public Art Initiative in Dubai Culture, and we're working closely with Art Dubai on the educational element, and we've been running the Dubai Public Art Program for the last 3 years. If you'd like to know more details on our program, our initiatives, everything, you're going to find it on our website through our open calls and our direct calls. And the next program that we're running will be during SICA 2026. So you're more than welcome to come and visit us to see our next run of public art programs. Do you want to add something?
There's a lot coming. We're still working on it.
Thank you.
I believe that we shall proceed